The answer is yes. They are that bad. So it would seem. What's up, everybody? Good evening. Hope you guys are doing well, and most of you guys watching this video probably are doing well. Little bit later than we have to wait for a Seahawks victory, but it was well worth the wait. Seahawks get the win 24-3 on Monday Night Football, and it was definitely a weird game. It was definitely a game that felt like was kind of hanging on the razor's edge for a little bit there when it didn't need to be. It was a game where there were some issues for sure, but 24-3 tells a pretty compelling story. And I think that story is accurate. That tells you that your defense was absolutely dominant, and I got to give it up to this defense. That is about as dominant a performance as I've seen from these guys in several years. And it says something about the Giants, don't get me wrong, but it says something about these guys as well as we go into the second month of the season as they try to get their bearings. And having a game where you give up really 3 points and only one good drive the whole game, like the Giants had one genuinely good drive the entire game. That's making it happen. That's getting some attention. That's getting some positive press on a day when the offense just couldn't really do all that much. The offense was hamstrung. The offense was sloppy. The offense had some injuries. The offense had to deal with the officials a lot. Just a lot of things not going the way of the Seahawks offense, really holding them back from being able to blow this game open. The defense just decided there's no way we're going to let you lose this game. And it was nice to see a game like this because recently it's been the offense bailing out the defense. It's nice to know we got one of these in our back pocket. So, big picture, Seahawks moved to 3-1, go into the bye week feeling really good about themselves. Obviously, this was not a good team that we played today, but realistically, that was probably their best shot. We can at least say that, right? The Giants gave us their best shot because they had to have this win, and we were not having it. So I want to give a shout out to basically everybody involved on the defense, and I want to give a shout out to both of our quarterbacks. I think those are kind of the headlines here. I know neither quarterback played great, but they toughed it out. They did just enough, and at the end of the day, we needed their steadying presence to make sure we could lock up this W. So I'm giving the initial shout outs to that crew. So let's go into a little more minute detail. So I'm going to start with this defense because you can go down this depth chart about as deep as you want to and not find a player who didn't play well today. And I know that's a double negative, but you get what I'm saying, right? Who on this defense left us wanting? The only thing on defense that wasn't clicking were the soft zones, and that's not the fault of any one player. That's a problem with scheme. And there was a point in this game where Daniel Jones had like an 85% completion percentage. It was all short stuff, but they were matriculating the ball down the field on a semi-consistent basis, and most of it was just because of the soft zones. That wasn't like a player. That wasn't somebody messing up. That was just the scheme. And I guess on a some level you can say the scheme worked because while the Giants were able to occasionally move the ball, they couldn't score any points. They weren't able to do actually anything meaningful in this game. Their one field goal was a 55-yarder, which is probably a 50-50 50-50 odds of making it, so you can't even really call that a defensive failure. And their one good drive ended in the Witherspoon pick six. So that's the only thing that was any kind of an issue tonight. Defensive line, Draymond Jones was disruptive. Jaron Reed, disruptive. Mario Edwards, Miles Adams, welcome to the sack club. God, who else? Am I forgetting a guy or two? Cameron Young, I thought, played fine. I know he didn't make any splash plays, but Cam Young went in there and did his job. We stopped the run well. I know the Giants ended up with over 100 yards, but I kind of thought in my head that Daniel Jones was gonna scamper around a little bit and pick up some rushing yards that we're not used to typically giving up. We shut down Breida, shut down Brightwell, and at the end of the day, their running game was not particularly impactful outside of that one drive where Daniel Jones took off for a couple of first downs. And the degree to which we were slamming Daniel Jones, I'm watching the highlights on ESPN over here. I actually see them out of the corner of my eye. Just play after play after play where Daniel Jones is getting blasted. And it's been a while since we've seen any quarterback facing the Seahawks deal with that level of heat, that level of pressure. And it was a thing of beauty, because going into this game, every sane Seahawks fan was thinking, okay, this offensive line, this makeshift offensive line, these receivers, these backs, this quarterback, it is this perfect recipe for this pass rush to finally go off. And we actually got it. Think about a few weeks ago when we played the Rams. And I was looking at that offensive line and I went, this is not a good offensive line. We should be able to beat up on these guys. Stafford should be getting hit constantly. And we barely touched Stafford. So think about where we were 3 weeks ago compared to now. Where, yeah, I know the Giants' offensive line has huge problems. It is an absolute train wreck up there. They lost John Michael Schmitz in the middle of this game, by the way, and had to shuffle around again, but it doesn't matter. 3 weeks ago showed that just because you're playing a bad offensive line doesn't mean that you're going to perform. So, Nwosu popped off. Monster game from Nwosu. Good to see. Mafe, I know it wasn't huge statistically, but he had the late sack, and I do think that he got some meaningful pressures early on that didn't result in the sacks. Bobby with the sacks, Brooks with the sacks. Derek Hall, I saw him get at least a couple of QB pressures. Darrell Taylor was getting involved by the end. There were 11 sacks in this game, and quite honestly, if we're being straight honest here, how many times did Daniel Jones just barely manage to squirt away from a defender and pick up a couple yards to thwart a sack? Like, it could have been worse. It could have been so much worse. He was running for his life this whole game. I'm still trying to figure out why they took so long to pull him out of this game. It was clearly over. Don't know why they're leaving him out there to get his butt kicked over and over again like that. But wow, that was an absolute thing of beauty. And everybody in that front seven, everybody just brought it snap after snap after snap. I thought Jordan Brooks played a really good game. Wagner, every now and then you see the snaps where he doesn't have his speed anymore, and it's obvious. But overall, he is still an important presence on this defense, the run defense. He cleaned up on a couple of sacks in this game, so he's already doing more as a pass rusher than he ever did back 2 years ago when he was here, and 3 years ago and 4 years ago. So we're seeing some change in the way he's utilized. Just again, you got to go so far down the list to find a guy on defense who didn't do his job, and that doesn't even count the secondary. And you know what happened on that first defensive drive had to be deflating big time. Jamal Adams is basically throwing a party all week, like, I'm back, I'm finally going to get back out there. The team's excited, the coaches are excited, everybody's pumped. Almost immediately, he takes a knee to the helmet, and done. And you could see how mad he was about that ruling by the doctor. You could see how absolutely, like, he's just wondering, how many times can this happen to the same guy? He's like John McClane. How much can this happen to one guy? So, real quick to talk about that, I don't really want to hear anything about Jamal Adams right now. I just hope that if you're watching this video, you understand that that was not him being made of glass. That was not him being made of cardboard. That's just him taking a very unlucky knee to the helmet. And stuff happens, right? Like the Forrest Gump shirt. Stuff happens. You guys know what I'm talking about? Yeah. That's just stuff happens. Not going to trip on that one. Not going to get mad about that one. I hope people understand that. Now, the good news is, and there were other injuries in this game tonight, by the way. I'll probably talk about them more in the near future. But the good news is we've got this bye week coming up, and there's a very good chance this bye week is going to allow pretty much everybody to be right by the time we play Cincinnati. But this secondary took a huge punch to the gut, losing Jamal after 9 plays on the unluckiest thing ever. Helmet to the knee. And for them to recover like that and play a really clean game, again, the problems we had tonight were all related to the soft zone more than the players not doing their job. And my God, did they absolutely lock down on allowing the Giants to get anything meaningful. And obviously, you got to talk about Witherspoon because he's the star of the night. He was the player of the game. He completely locked it down, allowed maybe a couple of short catches. You could maybe credit him on the third down play to Breida that went for like 20 yards, but I don't even see how that's his fault. And then he's housing one on the biggest drive of the game when it looks like the Giants might actually be seizing control a little bit, when it looks like they might actually be taking over the game. Like the Seahawks had their chance to end it. They were sloppy. They made too many mistakes. And now the Giants are actually going to come and steal this ridiculous game. And then he's just like, no. I know it's a terrible throw, by the way. I know Daniel Jones completely misses on the throw. I understand that. But it doesn't matter. He's still making the play. He's still got multiple sacks in this game. He's still playing excellent football in run support, blitzing. He had an amazing game tonight, blitzing, tackling, just the full package from Devin Witherspoon. And I said on X earlier tonight, I said, I wonder how many Jalen Carter comments I'm going to get this week. And I don't think it's going to be that many, but one is too many. I'll just put it like that. If you are not starting to understand this right now, if you are not starting to get what a special player we have in Devin Witherspoon right now, he's doing this with very little offseason work, by the way. So if you're not starting to understand that, then I don't know what to tell you. This is a special, unique player, unlike really any cornerback the Seahawks have ever had, I feel like. Tariq Woolen was not this good this quickly. Tariq Woolen was not playing like a Pro Bowler in Game 3. Quandre Diggs with the pick. Obviously, he did his job taking away stuff over the top. The Giants never hit a big play, so he does his job. I thought Julian Love played by far his best game as a Seahawk. Not that that was a big challenge to meet. Mike Jackson, I didn't notice him in a negative way out there. So, yeah, you go all the way down the list on defense. Who didn't play well? John Radigan, who got in on the final drive, played like 5 plays. Actually, I think John Radigan even probably played pretty well, so I can't come up with nothing. Now, flipping over to the offense, can't exactly say the same about those guys. Seahawks scored 24 points. 7 of them were on a pick 6. 7 of them were on a 7-yard drive because of the defense forcing that fumble. 7 of them on the Drew Lock drive, of all things, and then 3 of them in garbage time. They had one other good drive that didn't result in points because we didn't convert on 4th down in the red zone. And then other than that, it's tough sledding. And I will say this. I did say before this game started that I thought the Giants' defense was going to play better than they have so far this year, and they were going to give us their best shot. And I think they did. Thibodeau played an excellent game. Now, he's beating up on Jay Curhan, who did not play well. Jay Curhan was kind of getting cooked out there. I think that's pretty fair and reasonable to say here. And obviously, Curhan shows why he is a somewhat limited football player. But I don't know why we were leaving him on island so much. That was a little bit odd and unusual to me. So I can't really put that on Curhan. I think we were getting a little too cocky with our trust in Curhan to be able to handle that responsibility from play to play. I think that other than that, the offensive line played really well, especially because they had to survive some injuries. Haynes goes out almost immediately. Bradford has to go in. Bradford plays a solid game. Damian Lewis goes out. We got to go with Oluwatimi at center, Evan Brown at left guard. I thought that those guys played effectively against a really good front line that the Giants have with Dexter Lawrence and Leonard Williams. So the offensive line, other than Curhan, played really well. And again, I don't think that's on Curhan. I think that's on the coaching staff to not leave him one-on-one against Thibodeau so much. So those guys, We were able to mount an effective running game eventually behind those guys, so shout out to them. Um, there was a lot of sloppiness on offense, especially in that first quarter. Ton of penalties, ton of mistakes. Nothing really going our way. I will say I did not like the way this game was officiated for a significant chunk. I thought the referees were doing everything they could to keep New York just barely hanging around. But a lot of the calls were correct, and there was sloppiness here. So I don't know what happened in practice this week, but the team did not look mentally prepared for this. You had DK Metcalf. Tyler Lockett's already made an amazing play to break some tackles, get in the open field, do some stuff, and then you're blatantly grabbing a guy in front of everybody. Everybody can see it, completely ruining the play. Stuff like that. Stepping out of bounds when he's trying to run a route, meaning that, the third down conversion gets completely wiped out. All the penalties on the offensive line, wiping out positive plays. I mean, the Giants special teams unit was every bit as sloppy as our offense was, to give you an idea of how bad it was. And if you watch this game, you know how sloppy the Giants special teams unit was. So there were some problems there. But given the fact that it's a makeshift offensive line, I thought they played well. The fact that we were able to eventually figure out a way to run the ball well in this game with multiple running backs was big. Now, obviously the big event in this game, and luckily for us, it ends up being a footnote rather than something of massive significance. Geno gets hurt. Geno has to leave the game for a couple of drives, and Drew Lock goes in. And I know it wasn't perfect. I'm not saying it was, but I got to give huge ups to Drew Lock for making a couple of nice throws. He was not getting helped by his receivers that much. Lockett had a drop and JSN had a drop on Drew Lock throws. So he was not getting bailed out by his receivers. His receivers were not really helping him all that much. And he made a big play, our biggest play of the day on offense probably, that broke this game open and allowed us to at least come away with something impressive offensively. So Drew Lock, it wasn't perfect, but I'm very happy with what he did. Just a calming presence, went in there, handed the ball off, took off on a nice, I almost want to call it a Tim Tebow QB power when he just realized, hey, I got a free 10 yards, I'm taking it. And he made a couple of really nice throws. So really proud of Drew Lock. And even though the numbers were not great, and I definitely wouldn't say that Geno Smith played a great game, he hung in there. He hung in there, hit a couple of nice plays. The Metcalf touchdown was great. The some of the stuff he was doing in the pocket to evade pressure was great, and he pulls it together. Obviously, a lot to be desired. At the end of the day, you're looking at the drive chart and you're like, okay, that's a defensive touchdown. That's a defensive touchdown. Like there's 3 points that Geno Smith puts up in this game that he really earns, and they're all in garbage time. I understand that. But for him to go out there and play through that injury and obviously be put in some bad situations, I don't think Waldron called his best game. It's not a bad game. He did do some stuff I really like with the creative packages, the creative personnel he uses, but we got to stop running screens until we actually figure out how to run them. You can't tell me we're running them well in practice and it looks that bad in a game, but until we actually are able to run an effective screen, we got to just rip that out of the playbook. It never works. We had one kind of sort of okay one to Charbonnet today, and that was it. Geno had some passes batted down in this game. Obviously, the injury. Some people are saying it was a dirty play by, I think, Simmons, maybe. But never happens if he doesn't catch that ball off the tip, which, you as a quarterback, you just don't ever want to catch a ball off a tip. 9 times out of 10, something bad's going to happen. 1 time out of 10, maybe you'll actually pick up some yards. But we all know that you're not supposed to be catching the ball off a tip. He's got to know that. He's got to just bat it to the ground. So the injury's kind of his fault, admittedly. But putting that to the side, I think he did what he could. Remember, there was a ton of sloppiness in this game that took away his plays. He would hit a big play. He would pick up a big PI call. Bring it back. Holding. Bring it back. Illegal man downfield. Bring it back, this guy. Bring it back, that guy. Just flag after flag after flag on the offense. So, Geno, I'm not going to say he played good because he didn't do enough for me to say he played good, but he played fine. Played fine. Happy for it. Happy for him. Um, and Drew Lock came in and performed heroically in emergency duty. Walker, I thought Walker got pretty much everything there was to get. There was one short yardage situation where I think he danced a little bit, but Walker was good. Charbonnet was good. Lockett, probably his second best game so far this year. Fant with the big play. Metcalf with the goofiness early in the game, but he makes up for it with that great touchdown grab. Um, that's really about it. So mixed bag from the offense. Obviously, you want to see better than that, but at the same time, I understand that this Giants defense is throwing the kitchen sink at you. Special teams were good, other than Myers missing another field goal. That dude is dead to me. That dude is like, I am so done. I am so over it. But Dixon was awesome. DJ Dallas was good. We almost recovered a fumble on a punt. So special teams overall really good, and it's a relatively complete game. Not a perfect game, but a complete one. See you guys later. Go Hawks. 3-1, baby.